to Austin and welcome gubernatorial candidate Debra Medina. Hey, Debra, how are you?
Good.
It is nice to have you. Let's do two things. Let's take a couple minutes and wrap up the 9/11 thing, and then I want you to get to what you want to talk about for these remaining weeks of the campaign.
9 days, I think.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Well, indeed so. My assertion is it would have been over by now, would have been over in a day, if after the Beck thing you'd have said, boy, I'm sorry, I messed up. I should have identified this 9/11 truther movement as the despicable paranoid cult that they are. What a horrible, hateful belief to have in your head that 9/11 was an inside job. Why didn't you do that?
Yeah, I agree with you, Mark. You know, I laughed it off whenever he said I was a truther because I thought it was so absurd, and I should have just said no, absolutely, I'm not a truther. I think it's abundantly clear I'm not a truther. You know, those things happen to us, and we pick up, say, should have done that better, move on, and that's what we've done.
Then there's just one other thing that's left, because not being a truther is great. I'm thinking, of course you're not. Of course you're not. But sometimes the wisdom is defined by knowing whom to praise and whom to, quite frankly, condemn. Someone walking around with the belief that America would do this to its own people, that President Bush and those around him would slaughter our own citizens in order to justify war, is a despicable thing to
Agreed.
believe. And if that's, and you want to be on record as agreeing with that.
Agreed. Yeah. I was thinking in terms of the commission report, not in terms of what, you know, individuals are out there doing, and the commission report, I think, is the thing that I was getting back to, none of which, as you indicate, has a direct impact on what's going on in Texas right now, with the exception of we ought to be concerned about terrorism and what's coming across our southern border.
Indeed. All right,
we haven't addressed that issue, and we really need to be focused on that. We've, of course, been out talking about how important border security is for Texas. Hadn't taken it to the, you know, what impact it has on the country, but clearly the big open door right here in Texas, and that does affect the whole nation.
Then let's segue into some other things with just one final thing. In appearances since this dust-up, I'm guessing there are two kinds of reaction. People who say, Debra, we don't care, we love you anyway. Some people who have said, you've had to do some fence mending. How do you think that's gone, and how do you think it's going to go working toward, because we're in early voting now?
I think that, you know, what we say we want people who will say the right, you know, who will be bold and courageous, and yet in a lot of times we want people who will just say what we want to hear. I acknowledged that I knew the commission had some concerns, and you know, sometimes that makes people happy, sometimes it doesn't. I think people are ready to say, yeah, you know, she's being rational here. We're asking her to draw an absolute when the expert commission didn't draw an absolute. She's being pretty courageous.
Well, they drew it. They drew an well, of course they didn't. But again, the truther movement isn't about the 9/11 commission. It's about being an inside job. I mean, and I should have more clearly separated the two. And okay.
That's where I am. I think people have, by and large, yes, to answer your question, people have, by and large, said, we see this for what it is. There may be some importance to come back and address that, but right now, the crisis before us today in Texas, we got 9 days of voting left. And let's don't, you know, be deceived that this is anything other than someone trying to get us off message and off of the focus. We've got some real serious issues in Texas. If we want to talk conspiracies, let's talk the Trans-Texas Corridor deal. Let's talk the Merck vaccine deal. Let's talk the bailouts. Those are the things that are affecting us every day in Texas. That's what this campaign's been about, and that's where we've stayed, and we're addressing that. We got some more bad economic information yesterday here. I think it continues to come. It's something we've been talking about for months now, and have some real, I think, substantive policy ideas that will truly be a shot in the arm for the Texas economy and get us back to prosperity producing rather than this tremendous recession that we're in.
10 days ago, I haven't seen a poll since all this. Has there been one that I missed, or because I'm thinking, because I think I asked you this before. Me neither, and I'd love to, and I think we'd all love to see one. Whom are you chasing? Is it like the joke about the bear? All I have to do is really outrun you. Are you chasing Governor Perry, or are you chasing Kay, attempting to overcome her and make the runoff?
Well, we've been saying for some time, I think that the most recent polls are validating what we believed anecdotally. You know, as a registered nurse, my clinical job is to do assessments. I use a lot of senses to assess, eyes, ears, ask people questions, feel, look, see what's going on, and then I draw blood work or get an x-ray to confirm what I already know. Those polls have kind of confirmed for us what we've been feeling from all over the state. I think the most recent early voting turnout is supporting what we knew. There are a lot of people that are going to vote in this year's Republican primary that have not voted in a primary before. That's not to say those people aren't Republicans. We've got a whole bunch of people that vote Republican in November but don't get involved in the primary. They're understanding that, by golly, your choice for governor, the governor's going to be elected on March 2nd in Texas. You want to participate in that, you better vote in the Republican primary. People are doing that. We've seen, I think, 20% of the people who voted early yesterday in Tarrant County had not voted in a primary before. So when that happens, we really are looking at getting real close or surpassing even Governor Perry. That's what we've been working on for a year, turning out the vote in the primary, making sure that Texans understand the governor's going to essentially be elected on March 2nd.
Since we, in truancy, so you'd share most of the analysis that Bill White, while a decent mainstream Democrat, he will not be the next governor of Texas, no matter which of you wins.
I have said that I think the question early on, people were saying, can she win, like in the primary? I'm not voting. I like her, but I'm not sure she can win. And I said, I think the question we better be asking Republicans is, can Rick Perry win in November? And I don't believe he can. I don't believe Rick Perry can win in November against a Bill White.
Why not? Why not? That's a curious observation.
I think the 39% last time.
But that's with Kinky, Carol Keaton Strayhorn. I mean, that was an incredibly crowded field. It won't be crowded this time.
We're headed toward more economic bad news in Texas, and that's going to be hung around Governor Perry's neck, regardless of whether or not he really, some will say, well, the legislature crafted those policies, not all the governor's fault, and while that may be true, he's not out front condemning those things and offering other solutions, and we're continuing. I mean, yesterday, Tom Sees came out. He's the head executive commissioner in the Health and Human Services here in Texas. He's looking at, a huge hole in Medicaid. We continue to get bad information. We continue to get, it's good information, it's bad news for Texas, and the governor hasn't offered substantive solutions to fix that. So I think those things will be hung around his neck, and we need to think very carefully about, whereas, White's going to ride in on this white horse, or he's going to try to, his stewardship of Houston has not been very proper either, and Houston's got some real monetary problems, but they're the same kinds of problems that Governor Perry has led us to in the state. And so I can counter that by saying, look, I was opposed to those policies from the get-go. Here's what Texas ought to be doing. We've been championing that for over a year. So I think I'm a much better candidate to confront a Bill White objectively and definitively, and not just with campaign rhetoric next November.
Well, listen, Deborah, it is a pleasure to have you. I've wanted to talk to you for a long time, and thank you. And we'll be talking again between now and March 2, and we'll see how it all shakes out. Continued health and success to you, and we'll talk to you again very, very soon.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. There.